Sale of liquor, Objections to Applications Amendment Bill, second reading.
Honourable George Hawkins.
Mr Speaker, I move that the Sale of Liquor, Objections to Applications Amendment Bill be now read a second time. I first of all want to acknowledge most people in this House for the way that this bill got into the House in the first place. And I think that I must acknowledge people like Judith Collins who helped me get it in without having to go through a ballot. And I want to also acknowledge Peter Sharples and the leadership of the Green Party at the time, and especially my own Labour colleagues. I think this bill has been completely successful. And even if it falls tonight, it will have done the job it set out to do. I want to acknowledge that this bill went to the Select Committee on the 2nd of July 2008, the last Parliament. But I read their report back and they say, we note announcements by the government that it will introduce legislation that will address the issues covered by this bill. And I think when you have a members' bill accepted by the government through the Select Committee, one's got to be pleased. And I've got to say, I have been kept up to date by the chairwoman of the committee, Katrina Shanks, and I want to thank her. I also want to thank Simon Powell, who I've talked about the bill. So this bill, I think, is something that we really, first of all, looked at even before the time when Mr Singh, who owned a liquor store in Ranwick Park, was shot. But that highlighted the issue. I've been working with a young Manukau City Councillor, Daniel Newman, over the issue of the explosion of liquor outlets in South Auckland. But this bill isn't just about South Auckland. It's about liquor stores exploding all over the place, into neighbourhoods. And of course, we see the results of that. We have young people who can go and get ready to drink liquor, a dozen cans for less than $20. And it's a real problem, huge problem. And so when you have people like Daniel Newman coming and working with me to get a bill before the House, I think that's really worthwhile. When the bill came into the House in the first reading, it got into the House by 113 to 2. The two against the bill at the time were Rodney Hyde and Heather Roy. And they were like people, mountaineers roped together. And they didn't want it because I think they thought it was just dealing with South Auckland, which it's not. Now, we've seen booze outlets on every street corner where dairies sell more alcohol than they sell milk. We've seen the explosion of liquor being in supermarkets. And of course, we've also seen the explosion that's run in parallel with the increase in availability of liquor in domestic violence. Domestic violence, alcohol and crime are all partners that are a scourge on our communities. I think the cooperation across the House sees Parliament at its best. When you have people who support this measure, I think it's very good. Now, we will have a vote at the end of this, and whether this bill goes any further or not, it's done its job. And I think that's what's important. You see, the Law Commission have come out with a huge book, a report. Now, some people might use it for a doorstop, but I suggest to them they read it very carefully. I've changed my mind quite a bit over liquor. I used to be one of these people who thought there shouldn't be an age limit for liquor and voted for the 18 age limit. I've changed my mind. I think it should be 20. I'm not going to go for the 18-20 split, but, you know, so be it. But what has happened is this bill has given people an opportunity to think about what's going on. My only disappointment is that because of the Law Commission's report, it's going to take some time before a bill gets into the House. Now, I see that as being necessary. I'm not seeing that as a criticism, but it's unlikely that we'll have new liquor laws in the term of this Parliament, and we may do. Maybe there will be the cooperation where people want to see liquor laws change dramatically. When we look at what's been happening, the key features of my bill really give local communities far more say. If you apply for a liquor licence, you're going to have to do a social impact report. And I think that's hugely important. You're going to be able to have more time to put in objections. At the moment, it's 10 working days. Now, I think that should be lengthened. How long the government decide it should be, so be it. But we also want to have places like schools, churches, kindergartens, being able to say what the impact will be on them. At the moment, they can't. And I think when people start thinking about this, they will realise that communities are trying to take hold of the issue themselves. Yes, we've had people who have been hand-wringers who think this bill is likely to fall at this hurdle. Well, that's not a problem. When you have people from the Labour Party, my very good colleagues, from the National Party, the Maori Party, the Greens, all very sincere in their belief of what should happen. No one in New Zealand actually thinks that the law doesn't need to be changed. Now, why did this bill only cover a small area? Well, I've been here a long while, some people say too long, but thanks, the member from the North Shore yelling out that he wants me to stay longer. But look, when you see things changing in a society and the law tries to catch up with it later, I think feelings are fairly intense. I want to say that when you can have a look around at many off licences and seeing ready to drink for a dozen for $20, and it tastes so sickly sweet that young people think they can swallow it down like nobody's business, and of course there is consequences to that. Alcohol makes a huge difference to the work of police, and I've got to say any moves that we can give to help the police combat liquor by better laws I think will be to the advantage. Now I realise there's probably, I'll be moving later on, that there's going to be a personal vote on this, but I invite people to have a close think of it. I realise many people will think this bill's done its job completely and vote for it to end. there will be others who think, well, this may keep the government a little more honest and